Hi, welcome to Matt Sell It Music. Today I want to show you how to dial in a good electric guitar tone. Now before we get started, I think it's important to note that fundamentally I believe good tone comes from the hands. What I mean by this is the way you pluck the strings and fret the notes on the guitar will drastically affect the tone of the guitar. So it's important to work on your playing technique so that you get the best tone possible going into the amp first. Personally for me, I tend to have a heavy hand, so I always need to remind myself to lighten up whenever I'm recording or performing. Alright, let's get into dialing in the amp. Alright, the amp that we're going to be using today is the vintage SC22 by Vintage Sound. This is a great Fender style amp. It's actually supposed to be modeled after a Fender Deluxe Reverb with the addition of a middle knob, so you can control the mid frequencies a little more, and it also has a bright and dark switch so that you can take out some of the highs if you like, since sometimes Fender amps can be a little bright. I actually like the highs though, so I'm going to leave it on bright, which is how a standard Fender Deluxe would sound. The other thing I want to point out is that I'm running the amp straight into Logic using an aux amp top box by UA Audio. It's an amp attenuator and cabinet simulator. So the sounds that you're hearing on the guitar, that's the speaker simulation on the aux top box. So what we want to do first is find the sweet spot for all of the knobs on the amp. So what I'm going to do first is actually put all of the knobs at 0. Now, I didn't mess with the speed and intensity. This is for the tremolo circuit on the amp. Right now I have the tremolo disengaged, so those aren't doing anything. So I'm just going to leave those the way they are right now. Now the first thing I want to do is give the amp some volume. So I'm going to turn the volume up to about 12 o'clock. So there's still not going to be a lot of sound coming out at this point, maybe a little bit, but we're going to need some EQ to get the sound coming out. So next, I'm going to start turning up the treble EQ until I can find that sweet spot, or the spot where that pot engages with the amp. You notice it's kind of a jump right about here, where the EQ really kicks in. That's where the pot really engages with the amp. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I can always go back and adjust later. Next, I'm going to go to the middle EQ. That sounds about pretty good to me. Again, this is all subjective, so some people might have different tastes as to where they like to set the knobs. I'm just trying to find the range at where the amp works best. Last, I'll do the bass EQ. Alright, that sounds pretty good to me. Now it's a little woofy right now, so I'm actually going to dial back the volume a little bit to clean it up, just slightly. So where you set the volume is probably going to be based a lot on personal preference. I like to set the amp just on the edge of breakup so that if I play lightly, I get a clean tone. But if I dig in, I get a dirty tone. So that sounds pretty good right there. Next, let's go check out some pedals. Alright, here's my pedal board. So I actually tweaked the guitar amp just a little bit while setting up the shot. So as a refresher, here's the clean amp tone with no pedals on. So the first pedal we're going to check out is this one right here. This is the Double Barrel by JHS. And we're gonna look at this side right now. This is the light gain side. This is a transparent overdrive pedal, which is just an overdrive pedal that adds a little bit of gain to your amp without coloring the tone too much. It's great for just getting the amp to break up just a little bit for like a bluesy sound or just a little bit of crunch. So the first thing I want to do when dialing in the pedal is set all of the knobs to 12 o'clock. So here's the pedal with all the knobs at 12 o'clock. So there's quite a bit of gain for a light gain overdrive pedal, so I'm going to turn the gain down first. I'm going to check the bridge pickup to see how bright it is. So it's pretty bright right now, so I'm also going to dial back some of the tone here. That's sounding pretty good, but the other thing you want to do is check the pedals volume versus the clean amp volume. So here's the pedal volume. Now if I turn the pedal off to check the clean volume, you notice quite a big volume jump. Now since an overdrive pedal is technically compressing the sound of the guitar, you're actually losing some volume here. So what I'm going to do to make up for that is boost the volume on the pedal. And I might make some slight adjustments as well. That's starting to sound pretty good to me. Let's move on to a medium gain overdrive. So for a medium gain, we're gonna go to this side of the double barrel, which is basically supposed to be a tube screamer type circuit. So I'm gonna set all of the knobs to 12 o'clock once again. So here's the pedal with all the knobs at 12 o'clock. So again, quite a bit of gain for my taste personally, so I'm going to dial that back. So the other thing is that it sounds pretty bright, so I'm going to also dial back the tone on this one. And then last thing we want to do is check the pedal volume versus the clean amp volume. Alright, that's sounding pretty close. One thing I have noticed though with overdrive pedals is they can sometimes give you the illusion that they're louder than they actually are just by the nature of the tone of them. So as a rule of thumb, I usually like to boost the volume of my overdrive pedals just a little bit to make sure that they don't get drowned out once the band kicks in. All right, that sounds pretty good for our medium gain overdrive. Let's now dial in a high gain distortion pedal. So for that, I'm gonna go over to the Dynamic Distortion by Vertex. So this pedal is really cool because it cleans up really well when you roll back the volume on the guitar, which I'll demonstrate a little bit later. First, let's set all the knobs to 12 o'clock and hear how it sounds. So I already know from using this pedal that when you set all the knobs to 12 o'clock, it sounds pretty crazy, but just so you can hear it, here's how it sounds. So pretty wild. The first thing I noticed right away is that the tone is way too high. So for this pedal, I actually like to bring the tone all the way down. It's pretty bright for me, so I'm gonna bring the tone all the way down first. That's already starting to sound much better. Still too much gain for my taste, so I'm gonna dial that back in. Now, let's just check to make sure that the volume is matching with the clean amp volume. So it almost sounds like the pedal might be a little bit louder than the amp, so in this case I might back off the volume just a little bit. Again, I want to be careful though, because I want to make sure that I'm not being fooled by the sound of the pedal and thinking that it's actually louder than it really is. So the other thing I want to show you with this pedal is that it cleans up really nicely. So here's the pedal with the volume all the way up. But if I roll the volume back a little bit, so that's how I like to dial in my amp and pedal sounds. But keep in mind, guitar tone is very subjective, and what I like might not necessarily be what you like. It's important to use your ears and trust your instinct when dialing in a guitar sound. If you have your own way of dialing in a sound, feel free to leave a comment down below, as I'd love to hear some different ways. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.